It's kind of wild I never really did a boss ranking list on my channel yet, considering most of my channel is based around combat systems and boss fights when I review JRPGs or RPGs in general. So Khazan was one of the most impressive games to me in terms of its boss design, so I thought it would be a perfect opportunity to rank the first Berserker Khazan boss from worst to best. I genuinely don't think there's one bad boss in this game, so it's going to make this list even harder to make and that much more interesting. If you guys enjoy JRPGs, RPGs, or Souls-likes, make sure to subscribe, especially if you're a combat system enjoyer. I'm going to be ranking all 16 of the main story bosses, and I'm going to consider everything: their movesets, the difficulty, is it a fun and fair challenge, how long the fight takes, even stuff like story and the music surrounding the bosses. And at the number 16 spot, the worst boss in the first Berserker Khazan is Aratra, the giant nasty spider. And to be honest, this boss actually has some cool mechanics to it. You could break off his legs to take off a chunk of damage, and when he climbs the wall to go regain them back, you could actually throw a spear at him and knock his ass down and make sure he can't even do that. So it actually has some cool things to this fight. The reason I think it's the worst is it's boring, because how many times have we fought a giant, disgusting spider in all these games? Look, I love cool gimmicks and combat mechanics for bosses, but when it's a giant spider that we've seen a billion times, it just was not memorable and is definitely the lamest boss for me. And the second worst boss in the game at the number 15 spot is Yatuga, the giant snowman monkey thing. And why he's so lame is because they reused this guy's moveset, I'm not joking, like 40 times through the game. How many times is he going to do the same punches and spins at you until you just get it perfectly every time? So he's kind of just boring, but for a very first boss of the game, he's actually pretty fun and teaches you the mechanics pretty well. It's just, yeah, he's reused way too much, and in general, just not too memorable for me. Now here's where it's going to start to get interesting, because I think every single one of these bosses is honestly incredible, so it's going to be hard to narrow it down. But the number 14 spot from worst to best is Shaktuka, the ferocious beast, the most crazy beast of the Empire. Now, this guy is definitely cool and intimidating, but how many times is he gonna fly through the air and do a bunch of ballerina spins before he slams the ground? Like, his movements are so weirdly delayed, and they do work, and it is fun to learn to parry him, but at the same time, I can't tell you the amount of times he bit my ass off because I'm like, what is he doing? He's wiggling around like he's on the dance floor, and I have no idea what he's about to do. But yeah, not a very memorable fight also because he's a giant beast. They never get me as much as humanoid fights or story-specific fights, but still, all in all, a pretty good boss. The number 13 spot is Blade Phantom. Now, for the second boss of the game, he gets pretty crazy, and he's definitely a little bit of a roadblock for a lot of people. The reason he's this low for me is because he's just not as crazy as the bosses going forward through the game. His moveset is a bit more minimal, and even though he'll catch you off guard, it is not the craziest fight in the game by any means. I do kind of like, though, that he becomes basically homies with Khazan the rest of the game and basically nags and bitches the rest of the time, and it's really funny in my opinion. The number 12 spot is Hismar the Dragon. Now, you might be thinking I'm crazy for placing him this low on the list, but hear me out. The camera in this fight drove me insane. With a game this polished and really never having camera problems through the game, it really bugs me at times how I would be under his belly and I just can't see what is going on. And also, a lot of the time, you kind of just have to keep parrying him until he's on the ground, and then you could hit him. You can't hit him too much, and the amount of times I swung my spear and just missed his chin by like 2 inches, it drove me insane. It is still awesome though. He's a legendary dragon, and the fight is extremely intense, and it's cool when you could throw spears and stuff at his face when he's kind of far away from you. So again, really cool fight, but it just wasn't one of my favorites in the game. Another surprising one at the number 11 spot is Scalpel. Now, he kind of drove me crazy with his dirty, smelly coffin because his moves were just kind of annoying the entire time. I couldn't stand how he would do back-to-back grabs. They would always get me, and then at the same time, his moves were more annoying than cool, right? I don't mind getting my ass whooped if the moves are like blowing me away, but he just hops on his coffin and does a bunch of AoEs and a bunch of weird movements, and he's always giving you the plague status sinus ailment and it drove me crazy. Now, it did blow my mind, and I was laughing my ass off when he crawled in his coffin and gets back up for a phase 2. So that was definitely really cool, but at the same time, it was exhausting. This, I think, was the only fight in the game where I was redoing the fight to learn the second phase, and after a while, I was literally exhausted. I was like, I do not want to do this first phase again, dude. This is crazy. So yeah, he's kind of low for me just because I don't think he's that cool, and at the same time, yeah, it was exhausting after a certain point. The number 10 spot is Rankus, the second in command of the Knives Veil. Now, I actually thought this guy was really cool to fight. He's up close and personal and basically slamming the ground, causing earthquakes, and then he backs up and makes you dodge at range. And it was cool how you could dodge his bullets and get really close to him, and then it basically stops him from continuing to shoot bullets at you. And oh my gosh, this guy, when he whips out his flamethrower, I was like, you gotta be joking, dude. He starts dancing around the arena, burning your ass down, and then will jump and slam the ground. I thought his moves were really cool though. Like all his flamethrower moves, again, if it's really cool, I don't mind getting my ass whooped as much, but it was really infuriating at times, especially because he doesn't stagger as much as some of the other bosses. You could really combo bosses in this game, but this guy was like the Rock Johnson and the Thing from Fantastic Four merged into one being, so he just doesn't move like a giant boulder when you're hitting him most of the time, so I think he deserves this spot on the list. The number 9 spot goes to Volbano, and I actually thought this moose was really cool. His moves were so interesting, like some of the most unique boss moves I've seen in a while, and he'll be jumping off the ledge to RKO your ass. He'll be slamming the ground and clapping his hands to try to catch you off guard. His moves were just awesome, and then his one combo where he just continuously is slamming the ground, it is so satisfying to perfect guard that entire combo string. It's also pretty cool how at first you might not know what to do when the whole ground is on fire, but eventually you realize, hey, I gotta go up this ladder. So I thought that was pretty cool, and as well, his music in this fight was like this badass rock and roll song, so I really enjoyed this fight a lot. He's not higher up on the list pretty much because there's a lot of bosses that are even cooler than Volbano. The number 8 spot goes to Viper. Oh, Viper, the guy that was basically making people quit the game, so Nexon decided to nerf him a little bit. I honestly can't stand when the devs go in and nerf hard bosses, but at the same time, they're doing a good job where they're more so balancing it. They lowered the HP a little bit. It wasn't like crazy, and all of his moves and aggression are exactly the same, but this was one of the first bosses in a long time where he tripped me out getting up with his second phase. The first phase took me a minute to learn it, dude. So when he got his ass up and was having a totally different moveset, and he's in these clouds where you can't see him but his glowing eyes, I lost my mind. I totally got surprised, and that hasn't happened in a while because I've played so many Souls games and action games to where you start figuring out when there's going to be a second phase. But since this was early on in the game, I thought I was done. I did not think for a second he was going to get up and have a second phase, so it kind of blew me away. I also love how he would dash across the map and you would have to parry him, especially when he throws his spear and it's like spinning at you and you're continuously blocking. I thought stuff like that was really cool. The number 7 spot goes to Princess Ailina. Now you'll notice they really went hard on the waifu bosses in this game. The majority of the rest of the spots are all for the girls, and they just went crazy with these characters, so I thought that was really funny. But Ailina was really cool. I especially loved her aesthetic. She was really cool looking in her design, and then the arena was awesome. It was like this stage, and she's doing opera singing where you have to dodge all those things, and they have the crowd in the background. Like, that was super cool. And then she has a rapier where she'll go up close and personal and try to stab you to death. So that was a really cool fight. The reason it's not as high up is because it was kind of quick. This was actually one of those bosses I thought would have a second phase and maybe even deserved a second phase. I took her down pretty dang quick. Now the number 6 spot is Balerion the Dark Elf. Now this fight was pretty dang awesome. The environment was sick. It's like kind of like you're in this ghost town graveyard, and she would drive me a little crazy though with the amount of ghosts she would summon. I actually didn't mind her giant summon, like where she summons this giant guardian and you have to take him down and then you could go back to fighting her. It was more the mini guys, like when she would summon the bow and arrow ghosts and stuff, it drove me insane, dude. I'd be fighting her and then one of the ghost dogs would just come up and bite my ankles and I'm like, come on, dude. And then her shield drove me a little crazy. The shield kind of got annoying, but overall, still a fantastic fight. And what I actually found hilarious is once you get rid of Elamane, it's like, okay, it's a sausage fest at the crevice. There's no girls here anymore. So she just comes back and just chills at the crevice the rest of the game. It's like, okay, we got a waifu back at the hub. We are in the top 5 now. These are the 5 favorite bosses for me through this entire game, and pretty much all of these were so memorable for me. And we were just talking about losing Elamane, and she is at the number 5 spot. I thought her moveset was just really cool. Some people got annoyed by her shield, but I really didn't mind it. I thought it was a cool back and forth between her and Khazan. Like, you would slam her shield, she would parry you, then she would charge at you and you would parry her. I thought the fight was absolutely spectacular. It really simulated a back and forth between Khazan and her, and I thought that was really cool, like an actual watching a movie fight play out or something like that. And again, I incorporate the story and music and everything like that too. I remember specifically saying at the beginning of this level, I was like, Elamane's gonna be the boss, isn't she? They're gonna turn her evil or something. And then it happened, and then the music that plays during this fight was somber, it was intense, and it put me in the feels, dude. I was sad as I was fighting her, and then she ends up dying. I did not think she would. She started to become almost an integral character and kind of follow Khazan around and help him out. So I was actually kind of shocked when they killed her off, and I was just like, wow. That was a boss fight. Like, that was crazy. Story-wise, mechanic-wise, I loved the Elamane fight. The number 4 spot is Troka, and I thought this fight was amazing for a few reasons. I loved the arena and almost how she was floating with her umbrella and dancing around the water, and a lot of people got driven crazy when she kept flying away to the waterfalls, but it didn't bother me too much. It was honestly too cool for me to be bothered. She would fly into the waterfalls, which would be surrounding Khazan as you're fighting her, and just bombards you with ranged spells. And when you're dodging perfectly back and forth and Khazan is just like swooshing back and forth, I thought it was so dang cool, dude. Overall, I just thought Troka was very unique. It could be annoying sometimes, but one thing this whole game does good is each of the bosses are so different and unique from each other, and I thought that was pretty amazing, and she really exemplifies this. Like, all her jellyfish, the way she would float around and do her spells, I thought it was so cool, dude. All right, we are in the top 3, the 3 best bosses in the game, in my opinion. You can probably obviously guess them, but what order they're going to be in, you'll have to watch. All right, the number 3 spot is Maluka. There's a few points when I was playing through this game where I literally stood up in my chair and was like yelling in hype, and Maluka was the first instance of that. When he got up and basically turned into this evil elf and whips out the Sephiroth sword and starts doing the craziest moves. Like, this dude looked like he was doing the Sephiroth moves from Kingdom Hearts 2, if you've ever seen that. Like, he was blowing me away with his attacks and destroyed me. Like, he was one of the longest fights it took. And it's not like his HP was too high or anything. He was just fast. Like, all of his moves you have to parry really quickly, and there's so many lights and flashes when he's using his sword. It's kind of hard to see, but again, not in a way where it's unfair. It was just like, this dude is fast, he's doing cartwheels, he's doing combos, and I don't know what's going on here. And I loved how he went from great swords, so the beginning of the fight is kind of slower paced with your blocks, and then he whips out the samurai sword and he's going full speed. So it was a big difference in his moveset, and then he would also switch back and forth between the samurai and the giant great swords at the second half. And I just thought the fight was incredible. It blew me away. Absolute hype machine of a fight. All right, top 2, and the number 2 spot is the final boss, Ozma. So this fight is just ridiculous. It is going to test every ounce of mechanics and energy that you've put into this game. They're like, bro, have you learned this game? Have you learned all the combos and how to use every one of your abilities? Because you better, because this dude has 3 phases. It was absurd. It's extremely difficult. It will absolutely destroy you, and all of his moves are like god tier, where it looks like this dude is literally Jesus, just doing the craziest moves you'll ever see. So I thought it was just insanely cool. Still very fair of a fight. It was just really long, especially if you lose in the third phase. It's like, okay, well, I'm just gonna shut off my PlayStation. I thought it was a awesome final boss. It's kind of crazy how him and Khazan were like best friends and they're bantering through this fight, and the cutscene before it really ramped up the intensity. It was just a really cool finale in my opinion, and I loved it. And you could probably guess the number one spot, and it is Reese. Now this fight made me feel things, bro. Like the cutscene before it, where it was showing the wedding and how they were talking to Khazan, and they're like, I wish the three of us could just kind of chill like this forever. It was getting deep, and the story didn't really go that deep yet through this game. So the fact they started doing this at the end, I was like, oh no. Then you're going through the whole level before you even fight her, and there's this sad piano playing the whole time. I remember it distinctly. It was like creepy, but at the same time just sad. And then you get to the fight, and she's still in her wedding dress, and Khazan is like mortified, dude. He's just like, oh my gosh, what did Ozma do to you? And you could just see it in his face and the way he talks, and then the music. Best song in the game, hands down, plays during the Reese fight. And through the first phase, I knew there was going to be a second phase. The first phase is kind of easy in some ways, but still really cool. The arena with the pink petals on the ground. Every time she does it like an explosion, the petals will fly into the air. It was like a beautiful arena, dude. It was like a work of art. And then she gets up, and it's like the dark version of her. It was insane how the wings consumed her, and she's just basically bleeding purple until she gets to this demon form. And then she whips out the scythe like a Grim Reaper. I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Now, mechanically, I don't think it's the best. I think Ozma or even Maluka, and maybe even a couple others, are better mechanically, where you're learning their moves, and it was just more interesting in that way. But this fight was just story, music, and presentation were out of this world. Like, I loved it. It was the most hype for me. And again, I was like sad through this fight, and the music made me like fall out of my chair. It was ridiculous. So Reese is my personal favorite fight in the game, pretty easily. Loved her design, loved everything about this fight. So yeah, that's my ranking of the 16 main bosses in the first Berserker Khazan. Let me know your boss rankings down below. What do you agree with on my list? What don't you agree with on my list? Let me know, do you enjoy the game in general? I think it's one of the best games of the year, and one of my favorite Souls-likes and action RPGs just in general. This game actually blew me away. I didn't think it was going to be this good. Every boss is polished, and yeah, go play the first Berserker Khazan if you haven't, but you really shouldn't be watching this video if you haven't yet, because there's spoilers. But anyways, guys, subscribe, like, all those doodahs, and I hope you guys have a fantastic day. I'll catch you in the next video. Peace out.